So, and everybody is born with some skill, whether
Mhm.
you want to keep polishing that skill, whether you want to learn newer skills, whether you want to
Mhm.
complement those skills is up to you. But keep
Yeah,
learning, keep growing, and the possibilities are infinite.
I love that. Thank you so much. So, how can people get a hold of you? How can they find you? Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Infinite Abilities Podcast. I am your host, Nick Yerhart, and we are here to encourage each other to find our own unique abilities. Let's go. All right, everyone. I'm super excited about today's guest. Her name is Sarika, and she is a communications coach. And why I'm so excited, because communication is something that I've been working on myself, and there's a lot more to it than we all think. So I'm super happy that she's here to share what she knows, so then, we can all benefit. So, Sarika, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Nick. Thank you very much for having me over. And I'm really excited to be here, especially because all your earlier episodes I was hearing, especially I told you I was hearing your episode with Gary. There are a lot of intellectually stimulating conversations which you're having, and I'm so glad I could be a part of this. Telling you about myself, professionally, if you ask me, I wear two hats. I'm a communication skills coach, which is my right brain side, my creative side, where I work for my passions, and the other one is my left hand side, which I'm not, which of course is also a passion, but that is my bread and butter. I'm the CEO of a health food brand in India called Dhampur Green, and we make 150 plus products out of jaggery, out of sugarcane juice.
Hmm.
So, but communication skills, why? Because I've always been a writer, I've always been a teacher, and I think both these things combined together, they have driven me in a direction to help people. And I'm really glad I've been able to help more and more people now actively because of my podcast, Communicate 101 Speaking Writing Tips, because of which I'm able to reach many more across the world. Because obviously, you understand that in case you are doing a class or a program or a workshop, there's only an X small number of people that you connect with. But via a podcast, via a YouTube channel like yours, you're able to reach millions and answer their queries and help them around. So it's
Yeah.
uh, it's very fulfilling. It's a very fulfilling experience as a teacher. Um,
That's awesome. And I love everything you do. Number one, healthy foods. That's always good. And then communication. We all we all could use a little help in our communication skills. And what a lot of people don't realize is communicating isn't just about speaking. It's also about listening, like active
mm,
listening. We're
mm,
all kind of brought up and raised to listen to respond instead of
mm,
listening to understand. And there's
mm.
a big difference, and that's something that I'm working on myself. So if you could share anything about that, that would be amazing.
Sure. I'm so glad you asked this question. In fact, that's a very it's a universal question. A lot of people have this concern. Um, uh, in fact, in one of the episodes of my podcast, I talk strictly about active listening and how to do that, how not to do that.
Mhm.
So the do's and don'ts. Typically, whenever somebody asks us a question, for example, in case you ask me a question, um, when you're halfway through asking me, my reply is almost ready.
Mhm.
That's the typical attitude that we have these days. We're all in a hurry. We're all judging what the other person is asking without
Mhm.
really realizing what the question is. There is a sentiment behind that question. There is an emotion behind that question. There is a depth in that question, but we do not pay attention to it actively. We are ready with our response. We listen to reply, like you correctly pointed out. And this active listening is particularly important in most personal and professional relationships, whether it's a parent and child relationship. If you don't actively listen, suppose your child comes and tells you he's being bullied in school, and you just, have a bias in your head. Okay, the child is going to ask me this question. This is what my reply is going to be. So you don't understand the depth of the question and you're ready with your response. It kills the relationship. The communication suffers. Professionally, everywhere, in case the subordinates do not listen to the boss, or the boss is ready with his answer before the subordinates ask them a question, communication suffers. So yes, active listening is a huge, in fact, listening is a big communication skill in itself, even bigger than speaking. When you listen to somebody, the first thing, and I always tell this through my workshop everywhere, is that you look at the person you're talking to. You face his direction. You don't look somewhere else when talking to somebody else. There is no communication then. You have that eye contact, which is very important in any kind of communication. Another mistake that we do very often, which kills the active listening part, is that we have a judgment, we have a bias, we jump into a conclusion before we've really heard the person out. So that itself, is counterproductive when it comes to active listening. You have to show that you're listening. You have to communicate that you're listening. You don't have to impose. Maybe you have some kind of a solution in your head. You want to, you know the answer, but you have to patiently give that ear, hear him out, and then respond. Active listening is a huge, huge communication skill and needs a lot of work.
And I also think that, something that a lot of us don't like, but is very helpful, is be okay with silence. Don't be so quick to respond. Wait a few seconds, because a lot of times the person speaking will have more thoughts. And then you'll understand what they're talking about even more just by waiting for them to maybe keep going. Would you agree with that?
True. I completely agree. And in fact, we, because we all seem to be in some kind of a hurry. So the minute somebody asks us a question, we are ready to interrupt him. We don't even listen to the question completely. So when you're actively listening, you not only pause, you not only have the patience, but you don't interrupt. It's a very small little thing. The minute you're asking a question and I interrupt you then and there, you will either start thinking, am I asking it right? Should I be asking this? Or you'll not be able to communicate what really your question is. So either way, communication will suffer. So when we are actively listening to somebody, we need to not interrupt. Also, one thing that you pointed out right now is, suppose somebody asks us a question. We naturally, we feel obliged that we should immediately answer. We are trained that way, that the minute somebody asks you a question, you're supposed to respond. No, that pause before you're answering, the pause before you respond to that person while you're thinking is very important. You can take that moment of silence, pause, think, and then respond. You don't have to answer immediately. You can take your time and respond thoughtfully. So this, comes to us as a very We are trained this way that the minute somebody asks you a question, respond. We have to let go of this bias, let go of this belief. When somebody asks you a question, pause, think, and then respond. It's only fair to act that way.
I love that, and that's something that I'm gonna work on even more now. Just taking that moment to pause, think, and then respond. And I know that's going to help a lot. And sometimes, when we're dealing with, people, our first immediate, response that we think of isn't always the one that we should
Right.
respond with,
Mm.
So by taking that moment, we can stop and go, okay, what should I really say? Not
Mm.
my first,
Mm.
response that might be negative,
Yes,
So,
you're right. And in fact, the other day, somebody asked me from the audience. So he said, I whenever I ask somebody a question, uh, anybody random, the person starts thinking less about me, thinks I don't know it. So he's very shy to ask a question. He says, is it okay to ask a question? I said, it's completely okay to ask a question. You can ask a question 10 times. In fact, the questions that you ask speak about you much more than the answers you give. So there's nothing wrong in asking. It doesn't make you small. I'm sorry if the person thinks less about you, or, forms an opinion about you that you don't know the subject. It's only fair to ask. So, these are small misconceptions that we live with. Nobody has really taught these to us, but it just comes inbuilt in our cultures for some reason. And I think these myths must be busted so that people are more open, people are more receptive to each other, patient with each other. Because these days we are all in a hurry, everybody is running from pillar to post, nobody has the time, nobody has the bandwidth. Our mind is overwhelmed with all sorts of information around us. So we are short circuited from everywhere. But it's important to bust all these myths and start clear, precise, and open communication, which is receptive, especially to listening.
Yep, I agree so much. I agree. And, to go back to what you're talking about asking questions and being worried of how someone might look at you. Going down what I say, who cares? Let them judge. Let them look at you differently. You don't know who you are, and all you're doing is trying to help yourself by asking the questions that you have. So there's
Exactly.
nothing wrong with that. So just
There's, I'm
ask, and you'll be better off. And if people judge you, yeah, they can go ahead. For me,
mm,
I don't care anymore. I know who
mm,
I am. I love who I am. So yeah.
yes. In fact, this I'm talking about 15 years ago. I was doing a presentation with the Tetra Pak group in Pune, in India, and out of the audience, somebody asked a question, which was a very intelligent question, and I had no clue who this person was. But later, I remember going and trying to find out who was that person who asked this question, because I really wanted to know him. A good intellectually stimulating discussion with that person could make a lot of difference to my presentation. So I believe that your questions really showcase your thinking capabilities. So there's absolutely nothing wrong in asking a question, and there's nothing wrong in being patient when somebody asks you a question. So both these things have to be, inbuilt in our system,
Yeah.
ideally.
Yeah. I agree. That's awesome. So, what is like the number one problem you see with communication?
Hmm. So, good question. In fact, I've also thought that this question was very bothersome when I started my communication skills coaching.
Mm,
Most people began to think that communication skill is for professionals.
mm,
Communication skills are for everyone. So initially, when I started teaching creative writing to children, and I used to, as a side hustle, I used to enjoy making them write stories and poems. If they would write a debate, I would further train them on how to fight it, and worked on their presentation skills. And slowly, because I was in the corporate sector, I started helping colleagues with their presentations, HR with their interviews, and slowly, diversified therein. But communication skills are for everyone. Like I mentioned earlier, whether it's a parent talking to a child, whether you're talking to your partner, whether you're talking to your driver, your domestic staff, your anybody. For example, I'll give you a very simple example, and I enjoy giving this example. So I have a dog. His name is Ryder. Now, if I talk to Ryder, you know, he warms up to me the minute he sees me.
mm,
If I'm talking to him, he responds in a certain way, right? But is he really hearing the words which I'm saying? Or is he hearing the tone with which I'm saying? I may just hurl abuses, but speak in a pleasant tone, and he'll be wagging his tail, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
So it's not exact, only what you say doesn't matter. How you say it also matters.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yeah.
as parents, we need to train our children. We need to teach them maybe what are the rules, how to draw boundaries, how to say a no, all those kind of things. We
Mm-hmm.
need to teach them good touch from bad, so that they
Mm-hmm.
come up to us in case they are being bullied or they're facing any kind of problem, so that the communication is seamless. But
Mm-hmm.
if we don't give that patient ear, if we as parents do not listen to them actively, do you think they will have the courage to come and share things with us? No. Likewise, our old parents, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the minute you talk in a, even if whatever you're saying is good for them, but if you're saying it in the wrong tone, the message doesn't go through. There's an invisible wall which forms before your message has to go through, and the message never reaches. So
Right.
communication skills are for everyone. And in fact, they're like a life skill. Whatever you want
Mm-hmm.
to learn, it's like driving, swimming, whatever you want to learn, you're communicating. We are social animals. We need communication. So there's no harm in polishing up and honing these skills. This was the biggest challenge which I had initially when I started, because there was no profession like communication skills coach. These
Mm-hmm.
days there are coaches of every shape and size, and for everything there's a coach. Times are
Yep.
changing. But
Mm-hmm.
25 years ago, when I started with this, communication skills was okay, why do I need communication skills? I can speak good
Mm-hmm.
English. Many people used to think English means communication skills, or skills mean English. No, it's not that. It can be any language. It can be just you're looking at me. It can be just, holding, your partner's hand. You're communicating. Body language, your tone, your pitch. There's so many
Mm-hmm.
non-verbal communication which doesn't even include any kind of speech. Forget about a language alone.
Mm-hmm.
People used to believe that you need to have, great vocabulary and fancy words, and whenever you're speaking, your grammar must be immaculate. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
A lot of people come and ask me about how good are the filler words? Should we have them? How to get rid of them? Sometimes filler words are good. They give you the pauses for the listener to process the information you're giving, for the speaker to actually think and then speak. There's nothing wrong with it. And you don't have to be perfect in something. But of course, you can keep working at something and polish it up and keep making it better and better. So yes, people, the biggest challenge was communication skill is for everyone or only for professionals. That was one. And the second one was, does communication skill mean English skill? These two challenges were a bit difficult to, to convince people, because they don't directly, show you that, okay, it's not like an exam that you give and you get those marks, but it translates into your grades in school. It translates into your getting good jobs, because, I was working in the corporate and I used to see that there are these freshers who come for the interviews. They may be having the best of grades, but they don't know how to pitch themselves. What
Yeah.
good are your grades, your certificates, if you cannot speak up? Imagine
Yeah.
there's a group discussion and the boss suddenly asks one person to give his opinion. Now, this person immediately becomes cold feet. He doesn't know what to say. He's not confident about saying whatever he thinks is right. He's not asserting himself. So all these things, there is certain amount of training which can help him pitch himself, market himself, get a good job, get a promotion, convince his client, So it's for everyone. Like,
It is.
I said, it's
It is.
for each one of us. And I keep learning from people. I may be a coach, but I'm also learning. That's the one thing that if we build in our systems, that you have to have the hunger to learn at any age, whatever you want to, but you have to keep learning, keep growing.
Yeah. Yep. You do. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was incredible and so helpful. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank
So
you.
my slogan is, your abilities are infinite. What does that mean to you?
Very thoughtful slogan. And because I've been in I did my creative writing from Cambridge, and I enjoy the power of words. So when you say infinite abilities, to me, that means unearthing yourself every day, reinventing yourself every day. And I keep doing that. I believe that's what keeps you relevant in the changing times. I'll give you an example. I was very underconfident about any social media. I was very underconfident about websites. So many times, I would not have any presence on the net just because I said, no, 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 it's for the new generation. Back of my mind, I used to think it's for techies. Till the time I got down to making my own website myself. Today, if somebody comes and tells me, I know what's right, what's wrong, if he's, actually giving me some information which is worthwhile, because I'm hands-on there, because I've learned it myself. And it was not rocket science, but I got rid of that barrier that, oh, I can't do it. So when I think about all these the abilities, they are infinite. I see you, so inspiring. I mean, there's something to learn from each person. And I believe that you keep reinventing yourself, you keep learning, you keep fire in your belly alive, and the
Mhm.
child in you inquisitive to learn newer things, whether it's communication skills, whether it's, anything.
Mhm.
But keep learning, keep growing. If you're growing, you're sorted,
Mhm.
because stagnant waters reach nowhere.
Mhm.
You have to keep the
Exactly.
flow, keep the circulation. That will keep pumping air into the waters and keep, fresh life into it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I really appreciate in fact, I wanted to know what got you thinking about this slogan. How did you arrive at
Um, yeah, it was actually me and my best friend, who's also my business partner, Kyle. We were just thinking like, hey, we need a slogan, and I I think he came up with your abilities, and then we were like putting some words behind it, and we just like, no, that's not right. No, no. And then I think I finally was like, infinite. Your abilities are infinite, and then we're like, yeah, there we go. So yeah, like
it?
to us, it means a lot, because I
Right.
believe that we all can do more, and you know, I like to say I have different abilities instead of saying I have a
Yes.
disability.
Yes.
So for me, my abilities are infinite because I can do much
Beautiful.
more than even I know that I can. So yeah,
Beautiful. Beautiful. In fact,
thank you.
uh, the positive word for a disability is differently able. So,
Yep.
I really appreciate whoever came up with that was a very
Mhm.
positive person.
Oh
He
yeah.
looked at everything with a positive light. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
it's up to us. Like they say, so many things keep going on in your life, you know, all sorts
Mhm.
of positive and negative things will keep happening. It's your reaction to those things. That's what matters, and that's what makes all the difference. We all have our share of struggles.
Yeah.
I've had my fair bit of struggles, but
Mhm.
I don't want to bore your audience with that. But I think we have to keep the focus on what we can do.
Yep.
So, and everybody is born with some skill. Whether
Mhm.
you want to keep polishing that skill, whether you want to learn newer skills, whether you want to
Mhm.
complement those skills is up to you. But keep
Yeah.
learning, keep growing, and the possibilities are infinite.
I love that. Thank you so much. So, how can people get a hold of you? How can they find you?
Okay, I'm very easy to find, and I always say that. So the minute you think of communication, I would be so glad if the name Sarika Singh comes to your head, because
Mhm.
my website is communicate101.com. My Insta handle is communicate101. My podcast is Communicate 101 Speaking Writing Tips. So everything is Communicate 101. And why I
Awesome.
call it 101 is because it's a little better than 100, a little over that 100. So
Yeah.
if you want to become a little that 100 plus
Mhm.
101 onwards, then,
Yeah.
and that respect, especially with respect to communication. So Communicate 101 is where I would love you to be. Of course, there are personal trainings, there are corporate trainings. I love to visit schools and institutions worldwide.
Mhm.
I love to be on panel discussions where I can contribute and add some value. But
Mhm.
I would love if, your listeners also enjoy my podcast, because I love to teach and I love to give away
Yeah.
knowledge and give away information. I think taking it from my father there,
Mhm.
hardcore academician and a teacher at heart. I think that's
Mhm.
why teaching is in my DNA. Um, so I would love it if you follow the podcast, Communicate 101 Speaking Writing Tips. It's on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple, wherever you hear your podcast. If you don't subscribe to any of these, communicate101.com, you have the podcast right there. So I'm very easy to
Awesome.
find.
Awesome. I love it, and I'll post your links in the show notes
Thank
so
you.
everybody can
Thank
find
you.
you so easily.
Thank you,
All
Nick.
right,
Thank you so
this
much.
has been this has been really great and super helpful. So thank you so much.
I hope and trust I've been able to add some value to the time of your audience
Oh
and
yeah.
yourself. And I look forward to lots of learning from you, from everyone, and sharing more and more information so that we can all learn together, grow
hmm
together, and communicate.
I love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this show, please go ahead and share it on your Instagram story and tag me in the Nick Yerhart. Also, go ahead and share it anywhere else that you see fit, because the only way that I can grow this is by you guys sharing it. I don't sell anything on here. I don't have any sponsors, so let's just get it out there by word of mouth and help more people. Alright, everyone, remember your abilities are infinite.